This is Rebel Mom Boss, the podcast for scrappy, rebellious moms who are making things happen while raising their babies. My name is Robin Flynn, a scrappy, rebellious mom myself, and the founder and managing director of Robin Flynn Media. I'm also a mom to a beautiful toddler named Peyton. We do things a little bit differently here, so buckle up and welcome to the rebellion. Nothing causes the Sunday scaries quite like a toxic workplace. So many women in particular deal with unhealthy, unsupportive, and sometimes even downright abusive work conditions. That's exactly what happened to my next guest. After leaving her toxic workplace, Kaitlyn Rios founded Faced with Grace. It's a charitable organization that offers mentorship, coaching, and leadership development for women who are navigating toxic workplaces. She's also a mom. She has 2 full-time jobs. And she managed to find some time to join us on Rebel Mom Bots this week. Thank you so much for being here, Kaitlyn. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for hosting these on Sunday evenings when I have time.
Yeah. Happy to. You know what? That's mom life, right? I put my daughter to bed and I get to work. We do what we have to do, right? So
Absolutely.
awesome. Okay, so I do want to mention that we are going to be discussing a topic that could potentially be triggering for folks who are listening. If you're currently experiencing, a depressive episode, a mental health crisis, or you're having difficulty at work, we just want to mention that some of the topics we're discussing might be a little bit triggering. So just if you're not in the right headspace for that, maybe just bounce out and come back when you're in the right headspace for it. Check out one of the other episodes. But I think that you will find a lot of value in the conversation that we're having today. So I want to start by talking about this organization that you founded, Faced with Grace, which I think, just when I describe what the purpose of this organization is, I think it's so necessary. But I would love to hear from you. What inspired you to start this organization?
Man, how low do you want to go? No, I believe in sharing my story because that's why I'm here today. So my drive and my passion for starting this organization really comes from, like you said, having lived through living in a toxic work environment, many toxic work environments, actually. And each one of them had their own caveats, but the one where the light bulb really turned on and I really found the call to pull myself out of the toxic work environment and break away and really realize what was actually going on. I hit probably my lowest point in my life, in my career. I've had depression and anxiety on and off throughout my life, but this was like a whole new can of worms. And I remember on my way to work was always the hardest. I had about a 25-minute drive every day, and it was like pulling teeth, just getting in the car and putting the gas pedal to the floor and going. And the day that it all really hit home, I guess I had really hit rock bottom. Everything in my mind was saying, just let go of the wheel, just go off the overpass. It'd be so much easier than showing up at work today. Just do it. Like, why not? And then I looked up in my rearview mirror and my 6-ish month old was looking right back at me. And I am a very spiritual person. I don't know if your listeners are or not, but I saw God in my backseat. And he was like, heck no, girl, put those hands on the wheel. We got work to do. Get on and get to work and we'll figure it out from here. And from that moment forward, it was like this huge, not only light bulb and just brightness coming from my backseat, but it was like this momentum that pushed me forward to kind of let go of everything I'd been holding on to and to take a breath for the first time in a really long time. I remember shortly after that, I kind of like broke down to my best friend and coworker at the time. And I was just like, I just don't want to be here anymore. Like, I don't want to be here at all. And I knew that meant multiple things. It meant like on this earth, it meant in this workplace with this job, with these people, like all the things it could possibly mean. It meant that. And it was like this boulder just started rolling and it told me to just keep going forward. And it gave me these opportunities to look for other jobs and start to distance myself slowly but surely. And just really listen to that calling to like not give up and not give in and not let this be the place that destroys me. And from there, I eventually found kind of my stepping stone role away from that job and, my path towards psychological safety. And it took years to unpack all of that I was facing. I mean, when I say I was in a toxic work environment, it wasn't that any one person was necessarily toxic towards me. It was the dynamics. It was just a cluster of a situation. And I really look back at that time in my life and I don't point fault towards anyone. I am actually very thankful for that time because it showed me everything I don't want in a workplace. And it taught me exactly the kind of leadership I want to be in my future for other people. So,
You mentioned that your 6-month-old was in the back seat when you had sort of this moment. I wonder how much of that had to do with the fact that you were a new mom. And, if you had asked me before I had my daughter, like after mat leave, are you going back to work? I'd be like, of course, I've been working here for 10 years. Of course I'm coming back. What are you talking about? Then you have a baby and you become a mom and you're a different person. The person that existed before you had your baby, if she still exists, she's much smaller. And your priorities shift, your goals shift, everything shifts. And it can be so hard to fit back into that old life. Do you think that that maybe was part of it?
100%. I mean, it was, and I think that's really the reason why I was able to sort of remove myself because it was like it gave me such a different perspective that I never had before. Right? Before it was just like go, 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 hustle culture, grind it out, whatever you got to do to survive, right? Like as a, newly married young woman, that's not a big deal because you have the time to decompress every day. As a new mom, with all the pressures that come along with that, and knowing how much more important a baby is than your job, oh my gosh, completely different perspective. And it's because of that I was able to remove myself completely.
I do find a lot of work environments are toxic for new mothers in particular because you're made to feel guilty if and when you do choose your child over your job. We have to take sick days because our kids are sick and they can't go to childcare. Or, we got to leave early to go bring our kid to their dance recital or whatever the case may be. And I do feel like there's almost this competition with individuals who don't have children because they feel like, you always get time off to take care of your kid, but it's not really time off, right? Like I feel like I'm clocking in for my second shift, so it's not quite, a vacation in Cabo that we're talking about
Right.
here. But I feel like that, that breeds resentment within the workplace if you're not careful. And I do think that if leadership isn't careful, you can put pressure on new moms, especially. This doesn't happen with new dads, which is so frustrating, but to make a choice. You basically are given this impossible decision whether you're going to prioritize family or career. And, I don't know about you, but I grew up a child of the 80s being told that you can have it all, you can do everything, a woman can do anything she wants. And as I got older, it just felt like that was such a lie. That like you can have it all and you're going to run yourself ragged and you're going to be burnt out and you're going to be exhausted. And that's just the way it is. You just have to suck it up. And I wonder what your experience was like if you felt that pressure to sort of be everything for everyone, everywhere, all the time.
Absolutely. I mean, I think any mother feels that at some point in her motherhood, right? Um, I think for me, it was a juxtaposition of going from not having kids and having like I've experienced that resentment of like, oh my God, her kid's sick again. She's out this week again. Like that like ugh feeling towards someone else, which now I look back and I'm like, I'm such a terrible human. I can't believe I ever felt that way. But you get that perspective shift, right? That was huge for me. I think that I became a different and better leader the moment I had a kid and could empathize with people who had kids and could realize like, oh, your kid's sick. I'm so sorry for you. Please go. Like take care of your child and come back fully rested and be yourself all over again. Um, but also like there's another juxtaposition that I think we're also not talking about yet is I was thrown and fed the line of I really just don't know if this is the most appropriate role for you now that you're a new mom. Oh, I was so mad. And it was like, just because we're new moms doesn't mean we can't either, right? Like, I agree with you. We can't do it all. We will burn out. Like, that's an unrealistic goal in life. But also being told that you can't is so unfair because moms can do anything. They may not be able to do everything, but they can do anything. And that alone, like that lit a fire in me that just pushed me forward. And I was in the midst of that toxicity kind of brewing slowly. Prior to my mental breakdown, I had been placed on a performance improvement plan. And it was all around that whole notion of, well, you're a new mom and like, maybe this just isn't the right time for you to be in leadership. And, maybe it would be better if you just stepped back for a while and had time to focus on your family. And it's like, but that's not the person that I am in this career role. Like, I am a driven, motivated professional. Just because I had a kid doesn't mean that I'm not still that individual to some extent.
It feels so like statements like that, and I've received them too, job opportunities where there was travel required, and they'll say, are you sure you can travel with a young child at home, as if she doesn't have a father who lives with
Right.
her and takes care of her too. But it feels insidiously sexist. Like they can't outright say, we don't want to hire you because you're a woman. We don't want to hire you because you're a new mom. So they find sneaky ways to discourage you from taking a new role or applying for a new job and doubting yourself. And it almost feels worse. Like I would almost rather be told you can't do this because you're a woman. And then I have an idea of what to do. Like I'll hire a lawyer and I'll take you to
Right.
court. But when
Exactly.
it's like that, it's just there's nothing you can do about it. You can't prove that it's sexist. There's nothing you can do. And it almost feels worse somehow. I don't
Yes.
know.
No, you're so right. It's one of the many, many, many microaggressions that I feel like I experience. The things that,
Yeah.
like you said, are so insidious and just so backhanded that if I was to call it out in front of anyone else, I'd look like an idiot or petty or whatever. Fill in the blank, right? Any of the words they use to describe women and moms. But yeah, it's maddening. Absolutely maddening.
Not to mention, you're also working after having a baby 6 months ago, which you're based in the US, right? So
Mhm.
that's par for the course. I'm Canadian, so we all get a year off paid here. That's just standard of care for us. So to me, the idea of being at work 6 months after my daughter was born, I was still healing physically. I had a traumatic birth, a C-section, pumping the whole 9 yards. My daughter needed physical therapy. I can't imagine being at work. And I feel like that is setting mothers up for failure as well, being like, hey, you had a baby 6 weeks ago. We don't care if they're in the NICU. We'll see you Monday.
Yeah.
So I'm curious what your experience is like as an American woman, if this creates, an automatically hostile workaround for women.
Yeah. Oh gosh, what a loaded question. I have so many stories that could go. Yes. Yes. So my first job, the one I'm describing, I had 3 months, which is like a blessing in the United States. Like that's a big deal when you get 12 weeks off. It's like, oh, you're winning the lottery. Um, my second child, though, I had 6 weeks. And up until, so let me give you a little backstory. So it's 7 weeks. If this is a different company I was working for, a very small startup. Um, Let me give you the other backstory to this. I knew in this company that one of the individuals, who happened to be a male, happened to be an African American male, had been supported through an entire like treatment of stage 4 cancer. So I knew, like, this place takes good care of their employees. They kept him on the payroll the whole way through, still just like kept a role open for him. I was like, man, these are good people. So at 7 weeks pregnant, I feel confident enough to go to the CEO and say, hey, guess what? And he's like, oh, you're good. We'll take care of you. And I thought, surely you will. Like, you took care of this other guy. Like, it's no problem. And I let it go. Like, I didn't think twice about it. Never went to HR because our HR was tiny, just sort of not super involved with the company at that time. And then 7 months rolls around and I am being put on bed rest and forced to then go to HR because when I went to the CEO, he was like, well, let's see about getting HR involved. Well, little did you know, there's another woman who also got pregnant, it's African American. And the promises that they had made to me early on, they weren't willing to honor for her. And when I went to HR, I said, what is the deal? Why can't we all have the same benefits that were promised to me at 7 weeks? Like, what is wrong with the world right now? And all of a sudden, HR wanted to play HR, and they wanted to be big bad HR and really enforce rules that never seemed to exist prior. And all of a sudden, we had no maternity leave. I had no coverage. I had no financial backing whatsoever. 7 months pregnant, was about to go on bed rest. Thank God I could still work virtually those last 2 months. But it became this snowball of a situation that was so multifaceted and so toxic and just so unexpected, that, yeah, the moment I came back, it was like, all right, how fast can I get out of here? You know what I mean? It was like, let me just get back enough to like, get a couple paychecks and then see you later. It rubbed me wrong in so many ways, obviously, but it also showed my colleagues, I think, what they were working in and the environment that they were surrounded with. So, long-winded answer to your question. I mean, it completely changed my entire perception of an entire organization just because I got pregnant.
Yeah,
Wild.
and I think also, so now that I own my own business and it's small, I have one employee and I work with freelancers, but I understand even less when leadership does stuff like that now that I have people that I'm responsible for their livelihood, because I can't imagine not leading with compassion.
Right.
And like little, not even talking about maternity leave, like I'm talking menstrual leave, like I'm someone, I have PCOS. There were so many days where I was like white knuckling it through my workday at my desk in like agony. And not only do you have to suffer through it, you can't tell anyone what's going on because God forbid a man overhears and he's grossed out by what's going on in your underwear, like it's a wild experience. So like to me, like I just can't imagine not leading with compassion, even though I think a lot of businesses are like, here's what I legally have to do, and I'm not going to do a smidge more than that. And as you have shifted into, this space of building a foundation, what have you learned from those toxic leadership examples that you've tried to not replicate, shall we say?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I think that, like, for that specific encounter, I mean, I think that there was nothing wrong with HR being HR, right? Like, again, going back to, like, I don't want to point a finger. They were doing their job and they should have been doing it all along. And I should have gone to them at 7 weeks. So that was my bad. But I think that told me, like, you have to keep boundaries. Like, there are certain boundaries in the workplace that are super important. And it can't just be this, like, fly by the seat of your pants. Oh, we got you. Don't worry about it. Like, no, there is a time and a place to be that casual, and it's not in the workplace. So boundaries are a huge thing. But I think, to your point, compassion, like, ah, I just, that whole scenario with a white woman, black woman, and once the black woman was in the picture, oh, my privilege and my rights just sort of flew out the window. It's like, both women deserve those rights. Both women deserve to be treated well. White women, black women, I don't care what color you are, what your race, religion, or anything is, compassion for human beings is like number one in my book. And sometimes that comes with boundaries again, right? Like, there's a time and a place, but I think there's a balance that we can strike in leadership, and that is so, so critical.
What would your advice be to somebody who's a CEO, an entrepreneur, they manage a team who wants to create a more compassionate and a better environment for their staff? What advice would you have for them?
Listen, just listen. 9 times out of 10, that's all I had to ever do with my direct reports. Like, when C-suite wasn't listening, I just sat them down and said, "What's going on?" And I just let them vent and I let them talk. And sometimes that's all they needed, right? Like, sometimes they just needed to be heard. Sometimes there was action that needed to be taken too, but more often than not, it was, I just want to know that my voice is heard, respected, and honored in this space, right? I'm giving you my time. I'm here more often than I'm at home. Honor me, honor my presence, respect my presence. It's really that simple. Um, yeah, I think so what's missing in so much leadership these days.
The other side of the coin, what would your advice be for an employee who now finds themselves in a toxic situation? Because it's not always clear when you accept a job, right? Sometimes you can be promised the moon, get it in writing. That's my advice. Don't ever trust word of mouth.
Learn that one the hard way.
Yep. What would your advice be? Like, what kind of questions maybe can you ask during the interview process? Like, I've seen a lot of people online asking potential employers for references from former employees. That feels very bold, but I mean, that seems like a great idea to find out what it's truly like to work somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, anyone who's ever studied up on the process of interviewing tells you you should come armed with your own questions. So first and foremost, don't be afraid to come with questions, but make those questions pointed enough to where you actually get something out of them, right? Um, Maybe ask, what were your employee satisfaction scores like last quarter? What were they like a year ago from now? Has leadership overturned a lot in the last year? What is your employee turnover rate? Right? That tells you a ton right there. And I always love to embolden people to ask for employee references. I think that is only fair. And if they won't give you that, then ask them genuinely, what do you feel like the culture is today, yesterday, a year from now? What do you want it to be? Right? What they don't have today can tell you a lot about where their current status is. So don't be afraid to ask the questions, but make them pointed, make them meaningful enough to where you walk away having a pretty clear idea of what culture actually feels like in that organization.
I feel like so often in interviews, we're asking questions that are still trying to make us sound smart, like that we're asking the right questions to impress them as opposed to sussing them out to see if, they're the right fit for us. And if they won't give you references, by the way, that's a really weak move on their part because you can find that information online. Like there's websites like Glassdoor, or even if you just go on LinkedIn and look up people who used to work at the company and slip them a DM, you can ask them questions. They're going to get that information one way or the other. You may want to have a little bit of control over that discourse.
I don't think there's anything wrong with asking to meet a few team members before you get hired, right? Like ask for a group interview. Who cares? If they ask you a question you're not sure, oh, wait, you're human, right? I mean, go for it. Like put yourself out there. I think that if anything, that shows good leadership and it shows initiative.
Absolutely. You can find Kaitlyn Rios on her website at facedwithgrace.org, where she offers personalized one-on-one coaching, as well as empowering live-streamed fireside chats every second Saturday of the month. You can also follow her on Instagram at facedwithgrace18. Thank you so much for being here today, Kaitlyn. I really appreciate your time. If you like what you heard today, make sure you follow and subscribe to Rebel Mom Boss with Robin Flynn wherever you get your podcasts. Oh, and make sure to leave a review because that's how other moms will find the podcast too. Until next week.